Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of God, welcome to another episode of the most offensive podcast ever. I'm Slimmy V, and today I am going to be talking to you about the spiritual and the physical. Let me start out with two verses that I got for you. Okay? The first verse is John 4:24. It says, God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship in the spirit and in truth. The second one is 2 Corinthians 3:17. That says, now the Lord is that spirit, and where the spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Remember that. Where the spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Why am I talking about this? Why am I talking about the spirituality and the physicality? The reason why is because I realize we focus more on the physical than we do on the spiritual. And let me tell you the reasons why we should spend more time concentrating and feeding the spiritual. But in order for me to tell you why you should spend time with the spiritual, I got to concentrate on the physical. It's normal. We're born, we're human beings. God gave us this gift of life in this physical plane called the earth. We have a physical body that he gave us. So therefore, naturally, commonsensically, we live in the physical, right? We have our eyes that we can see. We can see beautiful colors. We can see beautiful women. All right. This is what kind of attracts us to these women as men, right? We can see the cuteness of the little babies, flowers, and nature and all that stuff, right? We have our ears. We could hear music, classical music, rap music, you name it, whatever it is. You can hear the sounds of nature. Okay, the sound of water flowing in the river, or the sound out deep in the ocean, or maybe an airplane or helicopter flying by, right? All that stuff is like things that we don't really pay attention to, but it's just there. We have it. That's a gift. Okay, now we have our nose. Okay, we can smell your favorite perfume or cologne. You could smell a flower. You can smell your favorite dish or food when you're passing by. Your favorite restaurant or whatever. All that stuff is a gift. Okay, our tongue. The same way we could smell, right? We could taste our favorite food. We could enjoy a meal. We could use our tongue to speak, to communicate with others. Last and least is our hands, touching. We could touch different materials. We could feel different textures, rough, soft, wet, dry, whatever it is. You can hug somebody. You could kiss somebody, right? We live in the physical. Okay, we enjoy these physicalities that God gave us, like sex. It's something that we enjoy while we're young, while we're human, while we have the ability. But here's the question. What happens when you age, when you start getting older, when you start losing these abilities? What happens? You focus on them so much during your life. When you start to lose them, you start to lose your happiness. Because you put so much emphasis on the physicality, you thought that's all that God gave you. You thought that was the only gift he gave you. You didn't know that was temporary. What happened when you have glaucoma and you start to lose your eyesight? and you can't see anymore. That causes depression. What happens when you start to lose your hearing? What happens when you start to lose your hair? What happens when you start to get wrinkles? What happens when your teeth start falling out? What happens when you do have hair and it starts to get gray? We focus so much on the physicality that when we see those things, it's a sign of age, and you start to get depressed because you feel that you're losing your life. You feel like the end is nigh. You feel that it's soon and that death is upon you, that you don't know what to do. You're unable to satisfy your wife. You're unable to satisfy your husband anymore. That you thought and you think, this is it. There's no more I can do. Then you fall into depression. But this is why you got to concentrate on the spirituality that God gave you. You got to feed that. So that way, when you do pass away, when you do die, or when you start to lose the physicality, you know that you got everlasting life. You cannot make that mistake in concentrating so much on the physical that you forget to feed your spiritual. Your spiritual is important because your spiritual goes beyond your grave, goes beyond your life that you have here in this physical earth. There is an afterlife. You grow old, you start to feel aches and pains all over your body. You can't play ball the way you used to. You can't dunk, you can't shoot, you can't do anything. Now all you do is you go and you sit in the park and watch the young fly and hoop and have fun. But then you start to feel a depression because you don't know the enjoyment of just watching someone else. You don't know the enjoyment of just saying, you know what, I've enjoyed this time and I know I got better afterwards. This is why these two scriptures say you worship in the spirit and you live in the spirit, because after the physical, it's the spiritual. And if you do not feed the spiritual, you're not going to know how to live in the afterlife, and you're going to be a baby again. So you have to feed the spirit. I remember watching, my mom or my dad, my uncle, as life was being ripped away from them. And I remember this. They could not eat by themselves. They needed help with oxygen going through their body. They could not move. They could not wipe themselves. They crapped on themselves. They pissed on themselves through a tube. But yet, you can still have the happiness knowing that, you know what? There is a spiritual life. How is that? Yahweh, Jesus Christ, accepting him as your personal savior. This is the goodness of Christianity, that it teaches you that we cannot live by physicality alone, but by the spiritual bread that God gave us. Right? So this is how to kill depression. Learn to live beyond the physical. Learn to sit there, close your eyes, do nothing, and just enjoy nothingness. Learn to enjoy that. I remember my dad on his deathbed, as I played gospel music, he was just like, he was doing like this, like, feed me more of that, feed me more of that. And he was enjoying it, and he was moving his fingers. That's all he could do. And he tapped his finger to the beat of the music. And he just enjoyed that as he faded away into the spirituality. But there are people today that are miserable because they lose their sense. They lose their urges for sexual pleasure. They are unable to smile. They are unable to move. They are unable to go out there and play ball or soccer or baseball or football. They are unable to speak. They lose their mind. And when you lose your mind, what do you have left? The spirituality. This is the way to destroy depression. But you got to start now. You got to start now. Don't wait till you get old. Just enjoy life for what it is. Thank God for the gifts that he gave us to enjoy the physical. And thank God for his son, the gift that he gave us to enjoy the spiritual. It's a battle out there. And we here fighting. Okay? Wake up. Smile. If you're not offended, you're not listening. This is the most offensive podcast ever. I'm Slimmy V. God bless, stress less, and let Yahweh give you rest. I'm out. Peace.